What would you do if you woke up in a world where every game could kill you? Not just physically, but psychologically. Today we're talking about Alice in Borderland, a survival manga that turns simple games into brutal tests of intelligence, trust, and human nature. The story follows Raihei Arisu, a young man who feels disconnected from the real world. One day, he and his friends suddenly find themselves in a strange version of Tokyo. The city is empty. No people, no rules. But soon they discover the truth. To stay alive in this world, they must participate in deadly games. Each game is represented by a playing card, and every suit represents a different type of challenge. The card system is one of the most brilliant parts of the story. Each suit represents a different kind of survival challenge. Spades represent physical challenges, clubs focus on teamwork, diamonds test intelligence and logic, and hearts are psychological games. These are the most terrifying ones, because they force players to betray, manipulate, and emotionally destroy each other just to survive. And that's where Alice in Borderland becomes more than just a survival story. The real tension in Alice in Borderland doesn't come from violence. It comes from the choices characters are forced to make. Imagine being in a situation where saving yourself means sacrificing someone else. Trusting someone might get you killed, and every decision reveals something about who you really are. The games don't just test intelligence, they expose human nature. Many survival stories rely on simple brutality. For example, in Battle Royale, survival often comes down to direct conflict, but Alice in Borderland focuses more on strategy and psychology. The closest comparison might be something like Liar Game, where manipulation and mind games are the real battlefield. Characters must outthink everyone else. But Alice in Borderland didn't stay limited to manga. The story gained worldwide attention after the live-action adaptation released by Netflix, which introduced the series to a much larger global audience. And while the show captures the core concept of the story very well, there are some important differences that make the manga worth reading, even if you've already watched the adaptation. One of the biggest differences is pacing, which means some games and character moments are shortened or simplified. You get more time to understand the strategies behind each game, and the psychological tension between the players becomes even more intense. Another major difference is the internal perspective of the characters. Because it's a manga, the story can dive much deeper into the characters' thoughts and reasoning during the games. You don't just see the outcome of their decisions. You understand the logic and the mental process that led to them. This makes many of the games feel even smarter and more complex when experienced in the original manga. There are also smaller narrative details, character moments, and explanations that the adaptation either changes or skips entirely. None of these changes ruin the story, but they do mean that the manga offers a richer and more complete version of the experience. So even if you discovered Alice in Borderland through the live-action series, reading the manga still feels like uncovering another layer of the story. And in many ways, it shows just how carefully constructed the original narrative really is. Another reason the story works so well is its characters. Arisu starts as someone who feels lost and useless. but the extreme situations force him to confront his fears and grow. Throughout the story, we meet other players with very different philosophies about survival. Some rely on intelligence, some rely on violence, and some lose their humanity completely. Watching how each character responds to the same brutal world is one of the most compelling aspects of the manga. At its core, Alice in Borderland is about more than survival. It explores themes like the value of life, the meaning of friendship, the psychology of desperation. When people are pushed to their limits, who do they become? That question drives the entire story. What makes Alice in Borderland special isn't just the deadly games, it's the way those games reveal the character's true nature. Every decision matters, every alliance is fragile, and every victory comes at a cost. If you enjoy psychological survival stories, strategic mind games, and morally complex characters, this is definitely a manga worth reading. But here's the real question. If you were forced to enter the Borderland, would you survive the games? Or would the games reveal something about you that you're not ready to face? Let me know in the comments.